This is my lesson plan. My teacher's problem was Miss Steckelman, and her problem was that she was having a problem getting students engaged in her lessons. She says it's always the same students answering questions and getting involved in her classroom. She has class sizes that range from 15 students to 25 students. When she asks the class a question or asks them to volunteer for something, most students sit back and don't want to do anything. She told me she has tried many different activities to get different students involved, and so far nothing has worked. Having different size classes, it can be difficult to plan something that will encourage all students to get involved and be engaged. The student's age is ages 13 to 14, and the grade level is 8th. My curriculum alignment is the Standard for Agriculture 2.1.1 states that students will be able to identify and summarize the 3 measurements of light. These 3 measurements include color, intensity, and duration. Agriculture Standard 2.1.4 states that students will be able to identify and summarize the effects of water quality on plant growth. These line up with my lesson because it's exactly what I'm teaching. So my first technology, I'm just going to give a brief little introduction to my technologies and then go into how I'm going to use them in my lesson. So my first technology is interactive smartboard lessons. These can be used for classes of all sizes. It gives students the opportunity to be involved and encourages students to be engaged. And when choosing from different lesson, educators can choose lessons that can involve students, such as they can look at lessons that have fill in the blanks that students can come up and move, and like certain questions that students can come up and like write the answer in, just to get students up and active in the classroom. More on technology number 1. It encourages students to be involved because it's kind of like playing on the smartboard, and students really enjoy that. Like I said, if they were asked to drag a word to the blank or put ingredients in an experiment and watch it explode, students are going to enjoy that. They're going to want to do that. When other students see how much these students are having fun and engaging in the lesson, if only the students that normally engage are engaging at first, it would encourage them to do the same, because they'd be like, oh, well, those students are having fun and I want to have fun too, so I'm going to do what they're doing. And during these lessons, the teacher could also call on random students to come in or interact, and it wouldn't be putting students on the spot because it's a fun activity. My second technology is Quizlet. Quizlet is a great resource for students in the classroom and outside the classroom, and it's a great resource for students of all ages. The teacher can make a set of flashcards to go along with what the lesson is. Then the students can get into groups or not. They can do it individually. But if they did get in the groups, the teacher could display the set of flashcards, and then while they're going through the flashcards, the students could discuss the question or the fill in the blank or the true or false within their groups, and then take turn telling the teacher what the answer is. So this gets students engaged with their classmates and in the lesson. And the teacher would play a big role in this, making sure the students that don't get normally involved aren't involved in a group together, because you don't want your students that aren't really involved very much in a group together, because then that group's not going to engage as much as the other group. So you're going to want to kind of mix your students up and make sure you know your students. Make sure they're diverse groups. It could be used as like a Family Feud type of game where you send one up at a time to answer the question, that kind of stuff. These students could take turns going up to the board and clicking to turn the card over if they answer the question correctly. And then students would get to enjoy going to the smartboard once again, because students love playing on the smartboard. So my third technology is Canva. Incentives are a great resource to use in the classroom. Canva can be used to make reward charts so students can get points. These points can be traded in for different items, such as a homework pass or being the teacher's helper for a day. There could be a chart for every student that the teacher would keep in a file folder, organized by each class in alphabetical order. Then when the teacher asks a question or asks for involvement in the classroom, students would be more willing because they would want these points, because these points lead to rewards, and students really, all kids of all ages like rewards. If it was ran like that, and the teacher would also offer incentives like a party or a free day if it was ran to where it was a whole class incentive instead of individually by the student, which might be a little bit easier for the teacher to organize. These are both great ways to get students involved. So now I'm going to start off by telling you how I'm going to intertwine these into my lesson. So the first step of my lesson would be that I would start off with a smartboard lesson. I would encourage all the students to engage in the lesson, because if students are engaged, they're more likely to learn. It takes students through the first step of the lesson will be the smartboard lesson, and this lesson is over what a plant is, which kind of gives them the background knowledge that they need to be able to understand the standard that I'm trying to teach. So it takes students through what a plant is and introduces them to the topic of plants. It also starts to dive deeper and talks about what plants need to live. This is the base of this lesson and teaches students what plants need to live and how the things we're about to dive deeper in actually matter. I would then teach the lesson about light and water. Each student would have the opportunity to complete an experiment on water quality. So I would go into this smartboard lesson. I would teach them all about this, like what a plant is and why a plant needs these certain things to survive. And then we would go into experiment. So off this smartboard lesson, I'm going to go into an experiment to show students that and to also get students involved. So the smartboard lesson gets students involved, and then after the smartboard lesson, the experiment gets students also involved. So the second step of the lesson would be that I would move on to Quizlet over the 3 different types of light. This is what students would use as a study guide for their upcoming assessment. It includes all of the vocabulary words that students would need to know for the lesson and the assessment afterwards. The Quizlet would help them with future activities and lessons as well. Students can go through the flashcards, take practice tests, and even play games like matching to help them learn and deepen their knowledge of the concept. Providing activities for both of these standards will just give the students that are hands-on learners a chance as very much as the visual learners. So I'm using my technology to enhance both ways of learning. So my Quizlet is going to be my Quizlet and my smartboard lessons are both for more visual learners. And then the experiment and like just the experiment and then like even like Quizlet is a little bit hands-on, could also help them learn. And then my third step of the lesson would be the reward chart. So this lesson is meant for 10th through 12th graders who don't want to participate in lessons because they don't really care. This reward chart offers incentives for every class. The more that students volunteer in the lesson, the more points the class gets. Volunteering includes going up to the board and filling in the blanks on the smartboard, answering questions the teacher asked, and volunteering to go through the Quizlet with the class. These points can be traded in for a homework pass, a pizza party, a movie day, really anything the teacher has to offer. All of these would depend on how many points the class has and what the class decides to do at this point. The lesson would go on for multiple days and benefit every individual in the class. Since agriculture classes are filled with diverse students of every age, this lesson would engage students and teach them life skills that can be applied in everyday life. My first assessment would be given on Google Forms, and it would be a lab, like a lab report, kind of. So it would be given on Google Forms, and it would ask questions about all 3 of the things. And then my second assessment would ask questions about plant growth, and this would be like a lab report. It would be printed out on a Google Doc, and it would be sent to people, and they would have to, and it would be like a handwritten thing, and they would have to tell me like what they learned from their experiment. But the thing on Google Form would include a little bit of everything, but the lab report would just be based on the lab report. So the questions that weren't asked on the lab report would probably be asked on the Quizlet. Thank you.